welcome back to Replace Your Paycheck. Robert Lettin. Behind the camera is Dino. Look who we have here today. This is Terry Sprague, who is the owner, founder of, right?
Luxe Forbes Global Properties.
And it is founder and...
I am.
Good, yeah. And owner, everything. High net worth here in Oregon, Lake Oswego primarily?
Yeah, so we cover the whole state of Oregon, Southern Washington. I typically tend to, these days, focus on Lake Oswego, West Lynn, and sometimes the West Hills, and then I have other brokers within my company that, kind of like a law firm, that maybe know a particular marketplace better than I do, but have the same delivery and the same client expectations.
Yeah. So there are specialties in real estate.
A lot of specialties.
I did not know that.
Every day becomes a specialty. Well, it's just like within your industry, there are multiple markets you can trade, and so I'm sure there's a specialty for being a penny stock guy.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there is.
And
not here.
Not here. And at the same time, there's people that are OTC, growth stocks. There's all different categories of investments, and it's hard to be an expert at every category. So I specifically have focused on what I would just describe as the high net worth consumer that is mostly luxury properties, and not only locally, but I also advise them nationally and internationally.
I love that. And at your party, you and I, you had an interesting look on investing in homes. Can you?
Well, it's interesting. I think most people, when their home is a lot of times one of their largest parts of their net worth, and at the same time, unlike an investment, if you put people in an investment, it's typically pays a dividend. There's no daily maintenance of a stock or a stock portfolio other than your maintenance and your guidance. When you own a home, you own a living, breathing, physical property. And you're buying it, but it also serves a need. It's creating housing, it's creating lifestyle, it's creating life experiences. It's where your family meets. It's where people gather. And so, unlike a stock, that pays a dividend, and a home charges a dividend, you've got to buy it, you've got to maintain it. And the good news is you shouldn't necessarily buy it strictly your main residence as an investment. But that said, history has proven that I think only other than one time in the last 100 years, if you bought a property, even at the peak of the market, if you held on to it for 6 years, it has gone up in value.
So, good for you. So 6 years is the...
Yeah, kind of I think there's similar statistics in the stock world where if you bought into a portfolio at the worst possible time, that if you own it for 10 years, you'll still average 10%, those kind of numbers.
So it's the market rotation, or I look at it, the business cycle seems to be every 7 years, peak to trough.
And we're becoming much more aware these days of the cycles. Back in the day when I was in your industry, we could be in a recession and nobody knew. But these days with social media, everybody knows exactly what we're in and exactly where we're going. But there's a lot more opinions out there right now.
Right, which creates a lot of noise.
Yeah.
Most of which we should not listen to.
Well, and that's our job, is to get back to the reason why they're either making an investment or purchasing a property, whether it be their main residence or it be a property that a lot of people are buying second and third homes now.
Are those the questions you ask? What's the reason for this property? Why are we buying this?
It's interesting. We had an office meeting this morning, and we were just talking about the different way we engage with clients. And, an example, somebody calls me up and says, I want you to come over to my house and interview to list my house. And I think they the consumer thinks a normal routine is going to be, I'm going to come in, they're going to give me a tour of their property, and then I'm going to pitch myself. And the reality is just kind of the opposite. Usually I say, Robert, before I even see the house, can we just sit down? And then when I sit down, whether it be with you as an individual, your wife or your partner, then it's, Robert, why am I here? Why did you invite me here? And so the conversation becomes not about me, but about understanding the moment that they're in right now, that they're deciding to transact their house. And what's that all about? Why are we doing this? Because just like you doing, trying to plan out someone's finances and their how much revenue they want to earn on a yearly basis, I need to know, why they're selling, and how much do they owe on the house, and are there any specific life events going on that I need to understand those timelines and to meet their objectives. It's not just about selling the house, but it's becoming their business partner and then writing an actual business plan for just that house and those new clients of mine. So I look at it more of, when you bring me in, you are, if you're somebody, and you tend to see this more in the high net worth, where they have the ability to hire experts in different categories. So, they may come to you and you're giving them the financial advice, but you're also working with them on taxes and, looking at their insurance portfolio. I'm a component of that. For many of my clients, I am their advisor when it comes to not just selling the house and transacting, but becoming their business partner and their family partner in real estate, not just now, but in the future.
Are you curious where they're going from here?
Sure.
So you're selling your house today, where are you going to go? Is that part of that?
Well, but what's motivating them right now? And also, what else do you own? And there are, this market calls for a lot of creativity. So, understanding their own financial dynamics. I need to know as much as possible, because the level of experience and the level of wisdom that I have compared to most of the individuals in my industry, just like yours, there's different levels of authority. That it's those 1 degree of differences, those small changes that I can make in regards to a strategy that can multiply the effect in their rate of return and also their stress. And the whole idea is transacting or going through any moment in life is a stressful moment. It took them a while to think about it, talk about it before they invited me in. And then what a relief to know that, okay, I'm working with someone who has a process. He has the people, and he has a reputation of, people emotionally speaking about him, and what an incredible job he and his business partners did for him.
I love the idea of a process. The world runs on systems, right?
Yeah.
And the better the system, the better the outcome. How do you feel about interest rates and real estate? The higher the interest rate, does it slow down? But you've had record sales this year.
Sure. So, I think I set 5 different record price sales in the state of Oregon in 2025. And I just set one for Lake Oswego last Friday. So high-end sales are still occurring. Do interest, it's funny because sometimes consumers will say, Terry, in the $2 to $10 million range, those people don't care about interest rates. Yeah, they do. Because, at one point in time when rates were 2.5%, money was free. And so, they could leave their money with you, earning whatever you could earn for them, and they could borrow at 2.5%. And so it made sense to leverage. And so additional leverage created additional liquidity. But right now, with rates where they're at, even if they go to you for a margin loan and against their stocks, They've been historically, a year ago, looking at 7.5% rates. Now, the good news is rates have come down about 150 basis points from that level, and we're starting to break below 5 or below 6 right now.
6%.
And
okay.
For the normal borrower, you can get 6%. So one of the things that our company does at Forbes and Luxe is we have access to different venues of borrowing and doing business. So, we're getting our private banking clients pretty easy to get a 5.25 right now.
That's nice.
And then, there's special relationships where we can, maybe pull that down 25 to 30 basis points and get them into the 4s.
Wow. Anything, is there any interest rate that you would say, just hold on to this, don't sell, don't do?
Well, that's an interesting question right now, because if you're not someone who intentionally thought about owning an investment property,
right,
but you own a residence right now that, for whatever reason, life purposes, that residence is not needed for you personally, because you're either going to move or you're going to downsize or you're going to move to another location. But you're sitting at a 2.5–3% interest rate, and you've got equity. That's a good time to work with someone like yourself, someone like myself, and reverse engineer numbers and your tax person and say, should we hold on to this asset as an investment property for a period of time? And, we're not in the most exciting rate of return type of real estate market. Would we be better off to sell that asset right now, or take advantage of the leverage we have at such a low rate and hold on to it for 3 or 4 years until we're in another momentum-driven market? And is there a larger capital gain to be made at that time? So, is there a way maybe for us to draw some of the equity from that house to put down on the next house, but hold on to that asset and that leverage? Those are things we talk about all the time.
And all of that is the unknown, right? So that's kind of...
And that's why you have to ask your client, why am I here?
Well, there you go.
And,
okay.
when... And I've done very creative things. I had a client of mine that had a property on the lake that they informed me in October on a rainy day when the lake had just been drained. So instead of looking like a beautiful lake, it looked like a mud puddle.
Yes. With the pipe running through the middle.
Yep. They said, Terry, we just bought a house up in Seattle on an island, and we need to sell our house in the next 60 days. And I said, okay, well, so let's just take a look at where we're at right now. We're in, not the most active real estate market. We've got high interest rates. The lake has just been, taken down. The house is not looking as appealing as it would during the month of July on a sunny day with boats running by. What do we do? So I asked them, do you own this house? Do you owe anything on it? And the answer was, we owe a couple $100,000 on a $4 million property. So I said, how do you feel, like if I were to get you your $4 million tomorrow, are you immediately going to go and do you need that money? Are you going to invest it? And they said, yeah, we would probably take that money and put it into treasuries. And treasuries at the time were paying around 4%, 4.5%. And I said, okay, so how do you feel about doing seller financing? And what I mean by that is if I could get us a buyer right now, if we could offer a 4% interest rate at a time where people are looking at 6.5%, 7%, if we can create a story built around a 4% interest rate for maybe a 2-year period of time, that would build a bridge for the next owner to see lower interest rates. How do you feel about that? And that would equal the rate of return you would be getting in your treasuries. And if it's the right qualified buyer, it can work out. So they said, well, that's an interesting idea, because I'm looking, a lot of times it's how do you, consumers right now, buyers are playing musical chairs. they've got a dating app that they're looking at that has houses on it instead of dates. But they're swiping, and they're looking, and they're clicking, and they're liking, and they're waiting for it to go down in value and try to find that motivation.
Right.
Okay? But there is no sense of urgency. So how do you create urgency? How do you create scarcity that you actually get people in the market to react and take action? So literally, while I was sitting with them, I called Janet Eastman at the Oregonian. I called the editor of Forbes, and I said, I've got a story idea for you. Why don't you write a story about how realtors are using creative marketing to create a market that maybe doesn't exist right now. And I'm going to be marketing this property at a 4% interest rate, and it's seller financing. And both the Oregonian and Forbes wrote an article. Now, I can't tell you the exact CEO, but a CEO of a very large company happened to have a daughter who was going to go to Lewis and Clark College, and it was going to be the first year of them having a lacrosse team. And he basically said to me, look, I've got over 50 million in stock in the company I work at. But if I sell stock right now, everybody's going to want to know why.
Right.
Okay? And then I've got to do a press release that my daughter's going to, and they're not going to believe me. This is great, Terry. Let me come see the house. He flew up. I met him at the airport. We went out to the house. He loved the house. And he said, okay, I'll put $2 million down. And then if they can carry, I've got $2 million cash right now. If they can carry the other $2 million at 4% for 2 years, works perfectly. And we put that deal together, and it closed. And so,
nice.
In every market, you should be creative in every market, just because you are, when I first got into this business, I never thought about going into real estate all my life. It was never, I meet people that say, I wanted to get into real estate, and I go, why? And they go, well, I like to talk to people, and I like houses, and I do enjoy talking to people, but I'm also a business person. I've got to make a living that supports my wife and my two daughters. But I bought a house, when we moved back to the United States, I bought a house, and I thought, what do these guys do? And as you know, I had a merchandising background, was a clothing buyer as a young man, went to work on Wall Street, did 15 years advising clients like you do, had my Jerry Maguire moment, and essentially retired to the Caribbean for 6 years, and never thought I would ever come back to a normal business life. But getting married and having children, I had to get a job, and when I bought the house, I thought, what do these guys do? And I thought, where is the merchandising? Where is the beautiful marketing? Where is the storytelling? People are drawn to stories, and where's the emotion, and where's the science of actually knowing what is the profile for a particular house, and how do you reach that particular consumer and create an emotional excitement to come purchase that property? How do you do that? And it has a lot to do with when you walk into I'm sure you've walked into one retail store that you just recoiled because it was, it was chaos. They might have had the exact same merchandise, and then you walk into an experience like Nordstrom's, and it's the right mood. Somebody comes up, and Jesus lights come down on the mannequin, and you see the coat you like, and they nicely come over, and you don't even ask them what the price is. You're just so glad it was an easy experience. And so how do you translate that to real estate? And I think that's where I've been a market leader, is looking at the industry differently. I have learned to use my creative side of my brain, and then I surround myself with people that do other things really well. In my team, when we list a property, right from the very beginning, I thought, where's the storytelling? When I read these descriptions on the RMLS, it would say, chef kitchen, this hardwood floors, very non-emotional. And so I hired a writer. And what I said, okay, here's what I want you to do is, every time I list a house, think of yourself like Architectural Digest, People Magazine, I want the full Forbes. I want you to sit down with the owner and And yes, I want you to know, I want to know the provenance of the house. Who was the architect? Who built it? I want to know the typical features and benefits and details. But I also want to know, Robert, when you lived in this house, tell me your favorite story. What was the greatest gathering you had here? What was, you know, was this a place that people came for particular events? What, in the mornings, where's your favorite place to sit? In the evenings, where's your favorite place to go have a glass of wine?
Boy, I like this.
Okay?
Yeah.
So now I find if you write a story about a house, and if you can in advance, you know, when a client calls a buyer, whether they're coming directly to me or through a broker, if I can get them to my Forbes landing page where I have the full story, and the difference, when they come to the house to see it, I can see they've read the story. And they've emotionally already started to fall in love.
Right, put themselves there.
And usually in a buying party, there's the analytical one who's doing spreadsheets on me, and then there's the emotional one who's like, this is what I've always wanted. And the good news is, if you're smart analytical, you give the emotional one what they want, your life will be better. And so if I can sell to that emotional one as they walk in and they start to notice different elements of the architecture, and I've watched it happen. You know, when I first got into the business, people were taking pictures with, I don't know what kind of camera they were using, but that at least photography has elevated. But I told my photographers right off the bat, I want every image to be able to go on a cover of a magazine. So if you shoot an image of the pantry, I want that pantry staged, and I want that pantry to be on the front cover of Pantry magazine. Portland, interestingly enough, is the second largest creative executive population in the world. London, to my friend here, is number one. You would think it would be New York or
right.
LA,
You would, yep.
But you know, with the with Nike, Wyden Kennedy, Adidas, Under Armour, Lululemon, and then all the companies that have spawned from all this creativity, there's a huge creative marketplace here. And so I started searching around. I found a production company called The Narrative, and this was a young guy who had shot some advertising for Nike, action shots and stuff. And I said, okay, I've got this $8 million house that I need to sell. And the problem is the house is very traditional. And how do I find a younger buyer? Okay, I want someone who just inherited a lot of money. Maybe they've just become a recent billionaire. I want them to be attracted to this house. And the problem is that client right now is very Kardashianized and is looking at a completely different architecture and style. I need to do a video that shows a day in the lifestyle of living in this house. And I want a young couple. So we hired real actors and actresses that were actually, remember that show Grimm? That
Sure.
Yeah. So we had,
yeah.
We had real actors and actresses of this beautiful woman and man. And then at the time, this wasn't cliche. This was, or you know, this was a new thing back then in the early like 2007, 2008, where we had them driving through the gate in a car in a convertible, and she steps out of the car, and you could see her red, the red under her heels, which means she's wearing expensive shoes, and they walk in together into the house, and it shares a day. They have a glass of wine. They go out for a boat ride, and we found a guy that knew how to fly a drone, and drones were brand new. So we captured the flight around the lake, and turned out to be an epic video. At that time, the attention span of consumers, because they'd never seen anything like that, was long. Okay,
right.
We were just looking at Facebook. I don't think Instagram was out at that time, and so it was a 4.5 minute video, and people would watch the whole thing. So I sent that into Christie's, and Christie's said, Terry, we're going to play this at our conference in Europe, and it was I played at the Versailles or somewhere, where they played this video, this movie on the big screen as an example of this is the future of real estate marketing. And so one of the first people in the world to really engage in that now, with cameras, technology, software, a lot of young brokers, we're seeing a lot of video content. And I try, for me, I'm trying to remain relevant and have my own style and still show my homes. But that whole industry is changing too. Everything is changing, and that's I guess in the beginning what I was going to say is how do these guys do this industry? I would have been bored to death just taking a couple pictures and putting a sign up and putting it in the multiple listing service and just waiting. Jeff Hyland, Rick Hilton called me up from Beverly Hills. They were the top Christie's office in the country, and they said, Terry, we had a meeting with the Forbes family. And Forbes has over 100-year trusted. They've been able to really stay in the lane of giving information on business, people's success, people's story in business, and people use Forbes as an authority. Now, Christie's, we used to get 100 million visitors to our website a year. That's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot.
Forbes reaches 160 million readers a month.
Whoa.
Okay, so what that did was, as soon as they offered me the opportunity to become one of the founding members of the Forbes Global Properties, Forbes wanted, so real estate is a clickbait. People love looking at pictures of real estate, who owns them, basketball player, someone's star, big mansion. It is very good social media content. So it was a perfect solution for Forbes because now that they own the Forbes Global Properties, they now have this content rich, I think we're in like 35, 40 countries now. If you go to Forbes Global Properties and you could tour the world, you'll see some of the most magnificent properties. Now, unlike working for another real estate company out there, we can only put houses that are typically $2 million or more on that website. So Forbes did not want a bunch of homes that were not worth reading about.
Right.
Okay.
Oh.
So I think we're up to 30,000 brokers now within the since I started with Forbes. Internationally, and we have a huge international component, and the international component is really important to me and my clients. But that was a decision to go with Forbes and have more media access. So
you left Christie's. But Christie's put this package together for you with Forbes. What happened was it was one of the Jeff Hyland was really the original Christie's office in Beverly Hills. Okay.
And Rick Hilton, Paris Hilton's dad.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So Rick and Jeff put, it was called Hyland, Hilton Hyland was the name of the company. And it was Hilton Hyland Christie's. And they were really the flagship for Christie's. And then what happened was, Jeff was thinking through the same thought process of reaching younger, there's young billionaires driving Bugattis in Beverly Hills, a whole new generation of wealth. How do we do that? Jeff and Rick were really the people that put the relationship together with Forbes. And then it just kind of happened to be that because he was from Christie's, I was at Christie's. I was literally in New York City at 11 o'clock at night at the... they call it the Boathouse in Central Park at a New York style wedding, and I called the CEO of Forbes and said, send over, I'm going to change. And this was like December 20th, 5 years ago.
Wow.
And I said, go ahead and send over the DocuSign. I'll sign it tonight. And I think at midnight, my wife and I signed the DocuSign that night and became part of Forbes. And then I called my office manager and my VP and said, look, I know it's Christmas, but we have 10 days, and we are going to rebrand from Christie's to Forbes. Now, ironically, I had a listing appointment at a $25 million listing in early January. And he knew me and liked me because of my personal reputation, but also the Christie's element. But then when I came in, so I was like, well, how is this going to fly? And so I sat down with them and I said, I've added an accelerant to my business model for you. And that's a big point, is I added it for my clients, not for me. Most brokers, I think, look at, and in your industry, a lot of financial advisors work where it's a clearinghouse. Like, what's the cheapest place for me to work that I get the largest percentage of what I make? I've never been about that. I've been all about, I actually probably spend more than any other person in my industry in Oregon on the marketing, on the client support. But it's all about what do I end up netting because of that. And so when I said to my client, who happened to be a very well-to-do person, I said, we've added this Accelerant, we've added Forbes. He looked at me and he said, how did you do that? He got it right away.
Oh.
Like, how did you get access to Forbes? At Forbes, we're all independently owned real estate companies that then become part of Forbes. So, if you Google, my company has always been Luxe. So it used to be Luxe Christie's International Real Estate. And now it's Luxe Forbes Global Properties. And,
right.
then Forbes gave us a DBA. So we're registered with the state of Oregon and on the RMLS as Forbes Global Properties.
That's your DBA. So where's Luxe come from?
So great story.
I love that name.
Yeah. So I was, at the time, so I started at Windermere, which was a great company. The difference was they had never seen a business plan, I don't think. And I decided, I love writing business plans. I can whiteboard out, I used to be in your industry. I used to research, meet with the CEOs, understand their whole business model, and should we buy that company? And so one day I had this, what do these realtors do? So I wrote out a business plan. I start in a box in the middle, me, and then started looking at all the different things. And all of a sudden I had this, octopus chart of a business plan that I would only sell properties of over $1 million or more. And this is back in 2007. And I had all the ways I would reach them, how I would market to them. And I wrote that down as a business plan, presented it to Windermere. They hired me. I think the number one producer at the time had done $10 million in sales. I did $26 million in sales my first full year, and kind of have never looked back. And quickly became their top producer. But then when the market started to crash in 08, 09,
Yep.
I started to notice there was no lateral movement between the clients. And in other words, you're not going to sell your house because you're behind, you're backwards in it. So if I'm at an open house, you might come and see it, but you're like, I can't sell my house. I don't have any equity anymore. So I'm like, okay, how do I reach a consumer that's not from here, that's maybe moving here to relocate with Nike or Intel or somebody? They've got brand new money, or it's a startup. The economy is not affecting them. How do I get in the jet airplane with that consumer flying out here from somewhere? And so then I learned about Sotheby's, the international brand Sotheby's. And I called Deb Tebbs, the owner of Sotheby's, and I said, look, do you have anything going on in Portland? And at the time, she did not. So I opened up a little rogue Sotheby's office in Lake Oswego and had the brand all to myself. And just immersed myself in the international side of it. So I went to all the international meetings and met all the other international brokers throughout the world. And because my clients are going to be coming from and moving to and owning multiple properties. Then Sotheby's at the time was a branding arrangement with Sotheby's. Two separate entities, but they collaborate. And Sotheby's started to grow locally in a way that I felt like I wanted to control my own destiny and my own reputation of, if somebody asks you, what do the guys at Luxe Forbes do? They're going to describe, number one, they're the most out-of-the-box marketing group. They're all professionals. They're all fiduciaries. It is a unique group of brokers. So I wanted to protect that reputation. So then I called Christie's at the time. And at the time, they were doing the Elizabeth Taylor auction. Mm-hmm. And so I flew down to Christie's in Beverly Hills, and I walked in, and they had all of Elizabeth Taylor's jewelry out and everything. And I had a talk with the Christie's people, and they said, Terry, we've never done a startup, but my own personal production was larger than some companies. And we'll let you do a startup. So how did I choose Luxe? I'm walking out on Wilshire Boulevard, and I see this woman carrying a bag, and it said Luxe on it. I was also a big advertiser in a magazine called Luxe. Now the word Luxe is being used a lot now. There's Luxe nails, Luxe everything. But at the time, it was kind of a cool standalone name. So they said, you've got to name your company. So I came back into Christie's and said, the name of my company is going to be Luxe.
Oh, geez, you walked out, walked back in and said Luxe. Yep. Good for you.
Yeah. And, part of our relationship with this magazine started with the idea of, we want to create a magazine built around our brand that is distributed to our clientele, but we also want to find professionals in different industries that we don't have a quid quo pro relationship with, but are the type of advisors that we would refer our clients to. Because my clients don't see me as their real estate broker, somebody that opens up doors. They see me as an advisor, a peer, and they ask me, who should I invest my money with? Who should I need a local advisor. I need a family office. I need an insurance person. I need, could be a window washer. They trust us for that information. So the whole concept of this was, hey, can we find an incredible, financial advisor, private family concept, which is your concept. When you say private, when I think of family office or private office, it's different than going to a typical investment group. It's more about working with someone who's going to look at the overall picture of the client and then give them advice and create a model for them, which is what you do.
Mm-hmm. I love this.
Yeah.
So you have two homes.
Yeah.
2.5 million and 10.5 million.
Yeah.
Is there a different, from the buyer standpoint, are they looking at things differently than I would, or Dino or someone?
Yeah, a lot less people that can afford a $10 million house and a $2.5 million house.
So your market went.
Yeah. So I would say, a $2.5 million house is more of a commodity pricing for me. It's a really easy marketplace where I know there's a consumer for that price range. In the category of people that I'm working with, let's say 8 out of 10 can afford a $2.5 million house. My average price sale is around $3.5 million. Last year I sold a $9.5 million, a $9 million, one that I couldn't publish that was in that, because we sometimes record at zero. So sometimes I'm working with very confidential people, and they are LLCs instead of people.
Right.
And, we have strategies that we've used where no one can tell who bought it and what they paid for it. And part of that
Brilliant.
is listening to them. So on the higher end homes, setting proper expectations, a $9.5 million house in this economy, potentially not an easy task.
Right.
But I work with the athletes a lot, so I use the analogy of sports. I feel like I shoot the 3-point shot. Like you give me a home, I will figure out a way to sell it. Part of that is giving you realistic expectations. I'm not magic, but I will benefit the outcome for you. But then we have to take a look at the market, pricing. And in that case, that was an interesting phenomenon going on right now that Lake Oswego, mostly the lake right now, I think the prices are going to become unobtainable. Because what's happening is, if you take a look at Mercer Island, if you take a look at areas of Seattle on the waterfront, a house that would sell for $10 million on Lake Oswego would be $40-50 million up in Seattle. And Lake Oswego is a treasury bill. I joke with the mayor. He's the mayor of a Hallmark movie. while it's a progressively run city, it's a very progressively run city, and it's beautiful. And people are vacationing. It's becoming the Hamptons, of the West Coast for a certain amount of people, because they can buy a house on the lake in Lake Oswego for $10 million. That same house in the Hamptons would cost them $40-50 million. It's on the West Coast, so their flight is 2 hours.
Right.
They can drop down from Seattle, or or they may, these may be people that live in Arizona. So one of the houses, the 9.5, sold to people from Arizona, and they're going to live in Arizona.
Right.
They're going to vacation.
Right.
In a $9.5 million house in Lake Oswego. Same thing for the $9 million. So I've seen multiple. I'll protect his privacy, but there's a kid that created a really cool cookie brand and recently sold it for a lot of money. He was up here. His boyfriend was originally from Lake Oswego, and one of our brokers came to me and said, "Hey, this guy owns this cookie company," which my kids shop at that cookie company. And they said they want to stay at a house for the weekend with his, just come up here and vacation for the weekend. So I went to one of my clients. I said, look, if you know this guy and what he just sold his company for, buying your house at $5 million will be like him buying some groceries right now. So let's let him stay at your house. We'll charge him a nominal fee. But you're old enough, Robert. Do you ever remember the puppy cell concept? Mm-hmm. Okay, so Xerox, which was one of the first printing companies, invented the concept of the puppy cell. They would deliver a Xerox copy machine, before they had copies, carbon paper, and they called them secretaries back then, would use the copier, and then they'd go, we're picking up the copier, and they'd go, no, we're keeping it. It's like giving someone a puppy for the weekend. Mm-hmm. Come Monday, they're keeping it. So we let a young man and his partner stay in that house, and Monday they called me, the broker called me and said he wants a boat delivered, and we had a $150,000 Mastercraft delivered to him on Tuesday, and he closed the deal. So it's creative marketing.
Right, you do everything, don't you?
All right, I got to wrap it up.
You got to go. I see now. Ladies and gentlemen.
I'm late.
Yes, it's Terry Sprague.
And I'm texting my assistant. I'm on my way. Thank you so much.